All right, all right, all right. I was on Punch Drunk Boxing's live yesterday. Very interesting question. And I wanted to expand on that because, it went way left field after a while. Uh, and the basic question that the discussion posed was, you know, if Deontay Wilder had been from the United Kingdom, would he have had a better reception? And I maintain my original position that I don't think that he would have made it as far as he did if he would have been brought along in the United Kingdom as opposed to the United States. And it's because hold on, I'll shoot you a link, Lennox. It's because in the United Kingdom it's customary to match two promising prospects against each other. Whereas in the United States, what you normally see is that those young unbeaten fighters are kept away from each other. I mean, look at the lightweight division. I think that's the perfect example. Look at how Javante's career is managed. That's the perfect example. I don't think he would have made it far enough to become a world champion if he were brought along in the United Kingdom instead of the United States. If anything, he probably would have been beaten at the domestic level. So I'm gonna let everybody in on this. Shout out the Punch because it's a good discussion to have, but ultimately I don't think he would have made it that far. I don't. So I'm gonna wait, let the panel fill up real quick. I mean, that's the main thing, Him and Derek Chisora were supposed to have fought before Wilder even became a champion, right? And the fight didn't materialize. I think about that, and then I think about how Tyson Fury and Derek Chisora fought when they was both unbeaten fighters. You look at Fury versus Chisora, Dubois versus Joyce, Joshua versus White. They matched their unbeaten prospects against each other in the UK in a way that they don't really do that in the US. So I'm gonna take it to Lennox. Lennox, the question is, would Wilder have received a better reception? Would he have been more successful if he were a UK fighter as opposed to a US fighter?
No, and I think that I am probably the best qualified person to actually answer that question, having lived in both eras, both places, being a boxing fan and working in boxing and boxing. Um, I mean, I was in the UK in Lennox Lewis's era, and then I was in the States from the 2000s. Nah, he would not have been. He would have not had a better career. Just he's number one. He's not marketable, and the padding that was done on him, as you pointed out, he would have had to face some solid opposition coming up, and he would have faltered. It's just that simple. You know what I mean? By fight number 15, 16, he would have either been in with another undefeated up and comer or some real stiff competition. You know what I mean? Like it's just a tradition. You're going to get tested against. You got to go like Southern area, British title, Commonwealth title before you get up
Exactly.
there. And I don't know if he would have made it through all of those. Actually, I know for a fact just because I don't rate man like that. That he wouldn't have made it through there. And then we're gonna look at the other aspect of it, marketability. Yeah, something I brought up. You see man like Lennox Lewis, who's a talented fighter, who's just what I mean. Like man, them don't just embrace you because you're British. You gotta have a person. You gotta be able to be marketable, and you gotta actually be good too. You know what I mean? These are factors where Lennox was good, he was not marketable, and he was not likable. You know what I'm saying? That's
Oh
why
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he had to go seek his thing elsewhere. And let's be honest, Wilder's not marketable. Any sort of popularity Wilder's got, yeah, was based off of clout chasing Joshua. I mean, I don't think anyone's gonna. I mean, the only people who are gonna debate that would be Wilder nut huggers. So yeah, I think it's kind of naive, and I don't think anyone is in a position to argue this with me because holding cards from both countries and living in both, I think a lot of people are under the impression that, oh, you just got to be British to be accepted. That's not the case.
Exactly. And that was like the theme that that felt almost like what was being communicated out. And I'm like, yo, dog, just being from the UK is not going to make you successful, because look at Terry Flanagan. You know what I mean? And the UK fans, I notice, appreciate that, Unrivaled. Appreciate that. And look at how what I notice about the UK fight fans is they don't pull any punches. Like, and I brought up Josh Kelly, for example, that before anybody started saying anything about Josh Kelly not being all that good, the Brits were doing it. They were saying, they're like, yo, this kid, he better clean that shit up, because he ain't gonna make it far with all that flashy shit. You need, substance. You need textbook fundamentals, and all he's doing is flashy shit over there. I think that was the Ranowski fight and the Ray Robinson fight. And you didn't see the Brits vouching for him just because he's a Brit. They was the ones saying it, like, yo, this dude, you need to clean it up. So I think about Wilder, and I'm like, look, if we're talking about Wilder, let's say, okay, everything is the same and he's brought along in the United Kingdom instead of the United States. The scenario that I see is that he gets beat at the domestic British level, because unlike in the US, they match their unbeaten prospects against each other and it's normal. Whereas here, if you got two unbeaten fighters that look like they're going to have a high ceiling and they have potential, they keep them away from each other. They don't make them fight. You don't. I mean, how many times have you seen a Joyce versus Dubois or a Joshua versus White situation here with two fighters that both show promise? That it's not just unbeaten fighter and veteran fighter. It's two unbeaten fighters that have the potential to do bigger things. In the UK, they match them against each other normally. In the US, you really don't see that. The lightweight division has many examples of that. Like, look at Felix Verdejo. And it's like he's not even a goddamn lightweight. It's like he's
Yeah,
a division than everybody else. Like,
yeah. I mean, look at who. If you want to look at timeline, Wilder turned pro in like 2008, right? Look at who he would have had to go up against on the local scene to even make it to 20-0. You know what I mean? You think this man's gonna get through Chisora White? You know what I'm saying? Or even a what's the tall man? What's the tall man that Tyson Fury ducked? I'm blanking on his name. David
David Price.
Price. David Price. You know what I mean? You're going to guarantee that Wilder gets through those three guys to make it to 20-0. I've got solid money that he does not. He falters 2 out of 3.
I mean, that's my view of it. And the scenario was a little hazy. I'm going to let Troy go next, but the scenario was a little hazy when we were talking about it, because they were basically saying, well, let's say that Wilder makes it to being a champion, which I think is fixed. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to do that, then you're not really asking a question. But let's just say, hypothetically speaking, that, okay, Wilder makes it to the Stavern fight. He becomes a world champion. Given his backstory, would he have been more accepted? And I stand by my original position that no, because the Brits aren't dumb. They're going to look at this guy's resume and they're going to be like, well, who the hell was he fighting? Who are these people? That's one. And two, that scenario basically means that Tyson Fury would have still been the number one heavyweight, at least for a time, because he beat Vladimir. You didn't. The Brits are going to say, well, why didn't you fight Vladimir? Why was it him and not you? They're not going to overlook that. So, yeah, let me pass it to Troy. Troy, what do you think?
I think first of all, I'm going to repeat what I did on Said on Punches show. It all boils down to how the fighter is built and how he's carried, right? If you throw him in there, if you have an actual plan and you throw him in there, and each time you put the fighter in there, you move up a notch with the fighter, right? You start, let's say, on a C level, he wins a couple of C level fights, then B, and then he wins a couple of B level, then he steps up to maybe B plus, then A. That is how you build your fighter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if all you do is keep him on the same level with the same level of competition, and then you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to put him in with a guy that has a name now because he's making a comeback. You're going to get what you get in any country. It doesn't matter. If you watch both White and Joshua, right?
Mm-hmm.
They all came up a certain way, but you also have to pay attention as to how they speak when they lose as
Mm-hmm.
well, right?
Yeah.
Both of them have lost. They lost to each other, and White pretty much went on his win streak, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Joshua. He was stopped. He went on a win streak. And most important, well, not a streak, but he came back and won. But most importantly, take like a Derek, a Derek Chisora, right? His actual losses are actually bigger than most fighters' wins.
That's true.
And the reason why the fans love him because he makes no excuses about it. He just keeps coming back and he'll fight, and he's not fighting anybody that's say on a lower level. He just keeps fighting this opposition it's on a certain level and it might be better. And that's what he does. Win, lose, or draw, these guys over here are built to fight. Over here in America, they're built to be marketed. That's the difference.
Mm.
That's
Mm.
the difference.
That's a fit. No, no. I mean, I agree with most of that. That it's like Derek Chisora, very early in his career, took on a fight that you don't see in Wilder's resume, and that's well, at least at that stage in his career, where Derek was when he was an unbeaten fighter, he took on Tyson Fury. Now, if you look at Wilder, and whether you look at whether it's the same number of fights or the amount of years he had already had as a professional, what you see with Wilder is that he didn't have no fights like that. You didn't fight an unbeaten up and comer that showed that they had a high ceiling the way that Derek did, and that's the difference. The Brits, I believe, and it's this my contention. Anybody could feel free to disagree, but I feel like the Brits would have noticed that shit and been like, "Yo, dog, who the fuck are you fighting?" So I
Yeah,
don't, I don't, I
that's
don't
that's the
feel.
fact.
I don't feel like, oh, just because if he were English instead of American, I don't feel that, oh, that's the key to success. No, bro. As long as your resume look like that, as long as they got in you like that, people are gonna notice and they're not gonna forgive you for it. The other thing is that I do feel that because America has had so many world champions and so many gold medalists, that the boxing scene out here is a little bit spoiled. That Wilder won a belt, but the Americans didn't even know who he was at the time. Whereas in the United Kingdom, they're in a renaissance period of their boxing scene. They got a lot of good things happening for them. It's better than it's ever been, and there's more money being poured into it than there has ever been money poured into it. So perhaps you could argue that maybe that would help Wilder a little, but sooner or later, people are going to notice, bro, the guy isn't fighting anybody. You spent 7 years not fighting nobody, and they're not going to forgive you for that. I'm sorry, but they're not. I don't know any boxing scene that would. Look at the Japanese boxing scene. They match their guys tough, man, like they do. The only place where Wilder could have got away with a record like that is over here, man. Because anywhere else, like, well, who the hell is this man fighting, man? Like, you've been a pro since 2008, and you didn't bump into a Derek Chisora or a David Price? Come
Yeah,
on.
that's precisely, and it's like, I think that argument, anyone who made that argument is coming from a place of ignorance, because it's not just about the heavyweights. You look at Conor Benn, you look at Josh Kelly, you look at anyone locally. Yeah, that man, they want you. The fans call for you to fight the top competition locally. They want to see you in with someone who's actually poses a threat. That's what the fans want to see. So you can't like skate on some light ting. You know what I mean? Like if you look at it right now, quiet is kept. You see Eddie's building a little welterweight stable and having a little welterweight thing gone over there.
Yep. Yep.
You know what I mean? So
look at
so
the
you can't skate.
Look at the Conor Benn situation. Conor Benn had that, and it was a great fight with Chris Paynow, the kickboxer that ended up crossing over. And it was a great fight for a fan. But for Conor Benn, yo, that shit was mad tough. What do? They have him fight him again. You see what I mean? If that was here, bro, they would have kept Conor and Chris the hell away from each other. Like, yo, we're not putting Conor back in there with this Chris Paynout guy. He almost fucking beat him. Over there, they staged the fucking rematch. It's like, bro, look at Fury and McDermott or Fury and Chisora. Rematches. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people feel that McDermott beat Fury. What did? They had a second fight. The Chisora fight. That was a physical fight for Fury. What did they do? They had a second fight. I don't think that Wilder, like, nah, man. Is Shelly Finkel still managing his career? That's the question. Like, in this hypothetical, go ahead, Troy.
I'm sorry, Julius. I don't think that he's. I think he's a free agent, which is why he's talking the way he's talking. Because at some point right now, he would have been silenced if he was being managed, still being managed by Finkel and handled by Heyman. They would have called him into the office and been like, "Look, maybe you need to tone it down." Just like the thing where he kept saying, "I want to catch a body, catch a body." Then after a while, he was called in and he stopped saying that, right?
That's true.
Somebody got to him, told him to tone it down. But just, I'll give you an example, man, because I've been watching. I'm a fan of Doctor Who's. That's a show from over in England, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the difference between us over here and them over there. Doctor Who usually dies off in a new character, and a new Doctor Who comes on ever so often because he's a time traveler. Over there is about the story, it's not about the character. In America, most movies are based on what? You need a big star, you need a character to make the movie. Over there is about the story, it's not about building the character. That's different. It's the boxing. It's about over there building the fighter up, not so much building a character. Once you build that fighter up over there, perfect example. He had to be built up. He wasn't the greatest fighter in the world, but he was built up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he was turned into what? The Dark Destroyer. Eubanks. He was whatever it was with all his weird, but he was a champion and he was built up and he became a character. But he had those skills. Of course, if he would have came over here at that time, James would have whooped up him, but they didn't. But the fact is that they went on to have careers and be champions and all that because they were built to be fighters. Not fighters over here anymore. They're simply building characters to market.
I agree to an extent, Troy, but I still feel that as far as the process the Top Rank uses for their fighters, they're still building fighters over there. Like, look, Shakur Stevenson, when his time comes, I don't think they're going to be able to deal with him. You understand what I mean? And it's because of the grooming process the Top Rank puts their fighters through. They're like for example, now that Vasyl Lomachenko lost to Teofimo Lopez, right? People are acting like, oh, Loma was a hype job. You do realize that Teofimo is a Top Rank fighter, right? And you do realize that he was on the same difficult kind of process. He had to fight Richard fucking Comey. They threw him in there with Nakatani. This guy's like 6 feet tall at 135 pounds. This is how Top Rank matches their guys. They put Teofimo in there with a guy that you can see this might be a problem. After that, they put him in there with Richard Comey. Then after that, they put him in there with Loma because this is how they groom their fighters. The people at Top Rank seem to know. They're like, bro, you can't give him applesauce and expect him to be a better fighter for it. You got to match him tough. Look at, Isaac Dogbay. They put him in there with Navarrete after Dogbay had successfully defended the WBO title. They put him in there with a big, strong kid. He lost the fight. I don't think that's the end of the world for Dogbay. As far as I'm concerned, you only lost to one guy. Even though it was 2 fights, you only lost to one guy. You can bounce back. You know what I mean? But this is the process the Top Rank puts their guys through. And when I see the stat padding and the soft touches, that's really a PBC thing. It is. It's a PBC thing. Look, even Golden Boy. Golden Boy threw Alberto Machado in there with motherfucking Andrew Cancio. And you see what the fuck happened. Andrew beat the dog shit out of Alberto. What did they do? Like, all right, we're going to give you another shot. We're going to give you a rematch with that guy. And, let's see if you can do better. He gets his ass kicked again. You know what I mean? And it's like everyone else knows. You got to match the guys tough because if you don't, they're going to be like a deer in the headlights when they got to face a live animal. They're going to be out of place and feel crazy. The only outfit I see that isn't doing this is the PBC. So with that being said, I don't think a lot of their fighters would make it under different banners, if I'm being honest. And a lot of people, I don't think they're going to like what I'm going to say, but Keith Thurman don't get to be Keith Thurman under Top Rank. He don't make it that far. He don't. Sean will survive. Sean is strong because Sean fights as if he fights for another banner. Like, this is the guy that you could say fought Thurman, fought Danny, fought Ugas, fought Spence, fought Brooke. So he shows that he is a world-class fighter. But a lot of these other guys, yo, the only reason you made it that far was because of the creative shit. That's the only reason you made it that far. Danny has been at welterweight for 6 fucking years, bro. You tell me. I said it, and when I said it, people didn't like it, but bro, I'm not even sure that he would beat Igis Kavaliauskas, and I'm not joking. I'm not sure. Well, you don't throw enough. You get in there and you let the other guy tell you what to do. You make an agreement within yourself that you're gonna let the other guy set the tempo. He threw more punches, right, in this fight with Errol than what he threw with Keith or Sean. But it's always the same thing. You fall short of what the other guy is doing. So you threw a lot of punches, but you know why it was? Because Errol threw a lot of punches. You letting him set the tempo. And these kind of guys, I can't see Danny making it if he's a top rank for like, nah, B. You get killed. Appreciate that, George. The funny thing is both Wilder and Joshua's career parallel each other. Both started at late age, 19 years old. Both are big punches. Both got TKO'd in the 7th round. The difference is one got better and the other. Yeah, I agree with that. So, Mark, do you think that Deontay Wilder would flourish under the Union Jack as opposed to the Star and the Spangles and the Stripes?
Not particularly. I think even if he were to get your domestic level, right? I don't think he would have got your European level.
I don't. Yeah. See that? yeah. Because you got Pulevs in there and Povetkins in there. You understand? Those are the kind of guys that you're gonna bump into at that European level.
And don't forget, on the domestic scene at the time, right? He would have been coming through roughly with like Fury and stuff. Fury, Derek Chisora. But there was another person who was gonna fight Fury at one stage, and he may have had to fight him, and that was David Haye.
Yeah.
Yep.
David Haye was still something then. Don't forget what he did to Chisora. It's the same Chisora that Wilder pulled out of a fight with. He was meant to fight after the Audley Harrison fight. Warren was bringing him over. He had the press conference. Then all of a sudden he was a no-show due to unforeseen circumstances with strangling of a certain lady and a settlement outside the court. So he wasn't in a position to fight. But then he had 2 fights literally 2 weeks after the date, and then a month after the date, I think it was. He had 2 fights back to back.
Well, I mean that's my original assertion that and if anything, I feel that it's just the violin and it's diminishing. To me, it's what they're doing is belittling the work that other heavyweights over there and other fighters over there have put in. They make it seem as if all you got to do is be from the UK and you're gonna get all this adulation as if it's easy.
You know what? That's what's funny and what's actually quite annoying. And it's like, as I said, it's like the same thing that the mandem in the US think is just because we got guns readily available and you could walk into a Walmart and get one. Everyone from a country that doesn't have guns at that same access to guns must be soft. No, actually, you know what? Them men are a lot harder because they got to get up close and personal for everything. You know what I mean? So it's that same sort of impression that things like, I was like, yeah, and then this conversation has to be asked, like whoever's having this, have you ever been in the UK? Have you lived there? Have you gone to fights live? Do you understand that scene? Do you understand the small hall boxing thing? Like, do you really understand what it takes to make it in that climate? Or are you just making an assumption?
I would say there's something a lot more personal about stabbing a guy than shooting a guy. I'm just keeping it a bean, bro. Like
I'll grenade him. I'll hit him with a grenade.
I could blow your head off and not get any blood on my hands, but if I gotta be there and I gotta poke you up, yeah, that's kind of personal, bro.
I'll just roll a grenade under your car door when you get inside of it.
Well, that's my point, but you understand what I mean, Julius, because it's like a lot of people that don't really understand what I want. They think, oh yeah, like even on Twitter, you see the memes about guns in the UK. They always got the musket and this, that, and the third. And I'm like, well, the problem is it's like my stance on like someone chatting shit is like, if you've never thrown a punch in anger, you're not in a position to have a certain conversations. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, yeah, what you lot don't understand. It's easy. A 5-year-old can do certain things. So not to digress, I'm just trying to draw a parallel to like, you can't make this argument. Oh, he just made it because he's XYZ, when you don't understand. It's actually harder to make it as a heavyweight in that climate because you're forced to take these tests earlier and you can't run away from it. Like, you can't get guided away from the competition. Like, you know what I mean? You're not going to make
look, and that goes to my original contention. Wilder's resume is a cut below Terry Flanagan's, right? So I look at it as, all right, even if you make it to the point to where you get a world title, because that was one scenario that I saw. I'm like, all right, even if Wilder makes it to the point to where he wins a heavyweight world title, he would probably have a comparable following there to what he had here, which was not that many people. You know, like, you're not the darling, you're not the sweetheart, but without the names, you're gonna get the Terry Flanagan treatment. That's what I see. Like, bro, like, just like Brooke, and I brought up Brooke, that Brooke had a thin resume, and the Brits would have told you before anybody. You know, the Brits got behind him for the Spence fight. They did. They got behind him. But before that, when you just talk about Brooke, like, bro, Brooke, Ernie Smith 3 times, Jojo Dan, Kevin Bizier, like, come on, be like, what you want me to do, lie to myself? The dude got a thin resume. So it's not like they're going to give Wilder a pass for what's not in his resume and what fights don't happen just because he's a Brit. And that's the illusion that some people have in their minds. Oh, if he was a Brit, they would have. No, they wouldn't have. Now, Crawford, I think they would have treated good. Crawford, but that's because he has the fights. He's undisputed. They got every reason to be head over heels over a guy who unifies a whole weight class. But Wilder, I don't see that happening, bro. I don't see that happening. We have them, but they're illegal, so they're a lot less. Yeah, like, they'll bring up Dave Allen. They'll bring up Derek Chisora. These are guys that, you know, they were matched tough and they lost fights. Be that as it may, they were matched tough. Wilder was matched soft for 7 years. So
Dave Allen has a love-hate relationship, kind of. Like, he has a decent amount of fans who love him and a large portion of fans who hate. Like, he has way more haters than lovers.
But see, that's the thing. If you bring up Dave Allen, right, we're not talking about a guy who's on the scale of an Anthony Joshua, obviously, or a Fury as far as their following. And they'll bring up a Dave Allen as if, oh, well, that's the shining example that anybody. No. Wait a minute. Look at Dave's resume. Look at it. Look at who he had to fight.
Win, lose, or draw, he's got a better resume than Wilder nearly.
If you look at when Dave fought Luis Ortiz, right? Hey, Wilder, were you fighting those kinds of guys when Dave fought Luis Ortiz? Were you fighting those kinds of guys? Did you fight a Dillian White at that stage in your career? Because if you didn't, then there's no comparison. As long as you're on that applesauce diet for 7 years, you're gonna get the same reception. US, UK. That's what's gonna happen. Because they'll be like, well, who the fuck are you fighting, bro? Who are these people? I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I think it does depend, though. Because if Eddie's his promoter, right? If Eddie is his promoter, now I'm just saying, in the UK thing, right?
okay.
A lot of Matchroom fans are fucking stupid. And he will be able to sell Spielke and Molina to them. He sold Molina to them anyway, after he'd already lost. He sold them to them. This man actually made people think Brazil had a realistic chance of knocking out Joshua. Like, I'm just saying, he'll sell Bum Squad.
Nah, I don't think that's fair. Like, here's why I don't think that's fair. When Joshua fought Brazil, right? Brazil had just cracked the top 10, the divisional top 10. He was an unbeaten fighter. Now, I know that he looked like shit against Amir Mansour, and I understand that. But his fights like David Price and Tony Thompson, those two fights, to where, no, you can't take it for granted that this kid might lose the fight. You can't, because look at what Tony, like David Price had all the promise in the world till he met Tony Thompson, right? So I can appreciate that. Yeah, there was a chance. I could look, at least back then, I looked at it as Joshua should beat Dominic Breazeale, but there is always a chance that he doesn't. I thought Izu was going to beat Breazeale, and look at what the fuck happened. Look at what happened.
Well, I did never think Izu was going to be Breazeale. My prediction was he was going to punch him up in gas and get knocked the fuck out, and that's what happened.
Oh, that sucks.
But maybe, but that's more of a what if kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Most I'll say. Go ahead, Troy.
No, I was gonna say this. Wilder actually had the base, and he has skills. He has really. I've seen his skills before, and I could name the two fights maybe that I'm talking about. But the fact is that I guess he started to believe his own hype, and he never really sharpened them to the point where he reached his apex, right?
Mm.
And then you get what you get today. And also, right, when it comes to marketing him, the character that he created or somebody told him in his ear, well, you got to be like Floyd. Floyd was the ass. You got to turn into a villain yourself to make money. That actually doesn't fit him, because when you're 6'7" and you want to play a villain, you come off like a bully. Nobody likes a bully, right?
Mm.
All that stuff you could do when you're the smaller man, because people could probably tolerate it. When you coming off like a villain and you 6'7" don't work, especially when your real life is much more powerful than the character that you're trying to portray. So we got to factor in all these things.
You got to understand that Floyd's heel turn was forced. Floyd's heel turn was forced, and he found out that his heel turn was able to sell more tickets than him as a face. So, you know what I mean? If you make a heel turn that's first, then it's worked. But you know what I mean? You can't just come out the gate trying to be a heel when you have when your personality is probably more suited for a face.
Well, let's also be honest that Deontay didn't decide to turn heel until the last couple of years.
Yes.
If you look at the 2015,
he was a baby face.
If you look at the 2015, just Deontay from before 2015, he's the nicest fucking guy. He's likable before 2015.
He was in the UK popping off nursery rhymes.
Yeah. Fee, fi, fo, fum. And I'm gonna tell you, I could have sold Wilder. I could have sold Wilder, and people would have fucking loved him, because he has a human interest story that you could make a movie out of. But Shelly Finkel he's a fucking hack. He's not good at what he does. And here we are.
You know what always amuses me about Wilder is the fact that he thinks, well, I guess most of his fan base is as dense as him, because fam, you can't be on a Black Power thing and your manager is a guy who sent people to apartheid South Africa when all black athletes were boycotting apartheid South Africa. Shelly Finkel was doing business with it. So fam, that can't be the guy who's in your corner, your main man, and you want to be on a Black Power team. Like, I'm sorry, you remind me of, who's that? There was a character, was it Don't Be a Menace? He had the kufi on and that, yeah, but went home to like eat mayonnaise with a white woman or something similar. That's what that sounds like to me.
I mean, I think that Americans are ignorant enough and dense enough that they won't know, or they won't be able to wrap their minds around Shelly Finkel having fighters over there fighting during apartheid. I think that'll, because Americans, like, and I'm, no offense to anyone, but come on, like, y'all know, Americans idiots. Like, they are, like, Lennox, don't lie. You ain't got to be nice, bro. You've been here long enough. Are we idiots? Are we not idiots?
No, I mean, trying to be polite. It's just like, I feel like this conversation reminds me of all the things I had to deal with when I first moved over here, which is why I brought up the fact that the man them think that, oh, you lot don't have guns, so you must not be tough. It's like, fam, I'm from the north. I grew up in Newcastle. All we did was fight, fam.
Well,
Like,
that's the lost art. That's the lost art in the American in the American ghettos. Motherfuckers ain't really fighting as much as they used to. Like it's just a lot of and that's a different conversation too. Like because I mean I also think that happens to explain why we're not getting the same caliber of fighters that we're getting. Because boxing is a poor man's sport. It's a poor man's sport. And the best, some of the best fighters. Like, look at what Joe Frazier had to do. I believe it was Joe Frazier I heard about that he had to travel all these different fucking miles to be able to use boxing equipment because he didn't have boxing equipment. And I think this was for the Olympics when he was an amateur, whatever it was. It's like, yo, go ahead and ask one of these young guys to do that shit now. I bet you they don't. I bet you they don't. Not the shit that he had to do. And, it was a different time. Now, everybody's into shooting each other and stuff like that. So, yeah,
no, but it's not even on that. I'm just saying the whole idea that somehow everything's easier in the UK because of, I don't know, the accent or whatever. It's just that what I'm saying is this whole conversation is based on that mentality, and it's like I understand it because it's the mentality I had to deal with moving over. It's like, oh. Yeah, yo, you lot, yeah, you know what I mean. You lot go you sip tea and eat crumpets and blah blah blah. And it's like, fam, have you ever been there? Like, you don't really understand.
Yeah, I've never seen a crumpet.
I don't know what it is.
I've never actually seen one, and I lived in England for nearly 2 years.
I don't know what one is, but let me say this, right?
Crumpets are excellent.
Oh my god.
Man, I don't even want to talk after that dude's voice, man. But he sounds smooth as hell. But anyway, right?
Troy, how dare you?
But yeah, the truth about all of this is years ago, I don't remember exactly when it all started. There was a lot of UK fighters and fighters from other countries that came over to America and learned from these trainers over here. And then they took what they learned and they went back to their own country. And some of the trainers from America actually went back to their countries and taught them. So that's when the boxing game over in the UK and all overseas I started to step up. Where in America, most of our great trainers are not around anymore. There are some very good trainers. You take Buddy McGirt. He's a great trainer because he gets to understand the person first, and then he'll work with you. It isn't vice versa, where he's just going to work with you and then learn you. No, he has to learn you first, and once you learn the fighter, then you can work with him. Now, somebody said something about Floyd was forced to turn heel. That wasn't a force. That was him choosing money over anything else. He realized that he would make more money talking trash and doing what he does than actually fighting, I guess, and then just going home, which was his choice. It wasn't forced.
The thing is with Floyd, like it's a two-way street with Floyd because I look at Floyd, right? Like everybody knows that Floyd made a decision, more or less, to turn heel, and then they wonder why he was hated. Like, okay, did you process it? He made a decision to be the heel, to be the Ric Flair of boxing, essentially, because that's what he is. He's the Ric Flair of boxing. So, of course, people ain't going to fucking like him. If anything, that shows, yeah, he's a smart guy. He made a lot of money doing that. But don't expect people to love him for the shit. That's the whole thing. That you got to take the good with the bad. You know what I mean? It's not, oh, yeah, the Americans. No. You have a fighter who made a conscious decision to market himself as a villain. That did sell a lot of tickets. So he did get what he wanted out of that shit. But people ain't gonna love him for it. I'm sorry, you can't have it both ways. And then you have a fighter like Andre Ward, who's an excellent fighter. A lot of people have mixed feelings about Andre. I don't. I think he's an excellent fighter. But that's what happens when you don't talk. If you're not gonna fucking talk, all right then, bro. Like you ain't gonna be famous.
Julius, I gotta interrupt you there. I've got a lot of time for Andre Ward, but the style I find difficult to watch, and I think other people do.
I like it because he's not. I like it because he's not so far outside of the guy that he's just playing keep away. He's in the pocket with the guy. That's
right.
His sweet spot.
I have respect for Andre because he's made the absolute best of what he has. and he's an amazing boxer. But it's not the most entertaining style to me to watch. So I can respect him for his work ethic and his skill, but it's not riveting TV for me.
Oh, I'll say that he doesn't have a style that you could categorize as fan friendly, but because what I like about him is because he's in the pocket with the guy, it's either Ward is going to fight his fight, and the guy's going to throw, which is what I want to see. I want to see the guy throw. If you stay so fucking far outside of the guy, it's hardly a fight. But if you're in the pocket with him, okay, you're giving him an opportunity to hit you. He just can't, and I can appreciate that. It's not the most entertaining style, but it's better than what I've seen from some other people. Look, Broner is more notoriable.
Yeah, that's
he's more notoriable than Andre Ward. But look at him in the ring. Like, you're not doing anything, dog.
But
like,
what I was trying to say is, if you had a personality like Andre Ward and you were a complete knockout artist, a highly skilled knockout artist who set up your knockouts, dissected your opponent, and completely cleaned someone's clock, you don't need to talk.
True. That's true. That's true.
Or also back to the start point, I think what people forget too is the Marcus of Queensberry rule started where?
England.
Okay, and I think a lot of this is reactionary the way the US reacts to any sort of paradigm shift. It's like, yeah, it is what it is. The paradigm has shifted back to where it originated from.
I think also, Lennox, the US is very internal looking. They're not very aware of there's a world outside the US.
Precisely.
I can tell you that firsthand that they're not. Because if I say some shit, like if I say, look, Josh Warrington, right? They just, and I don't want to talk about it too much because I got a video coming up about it. Josh Warrington is going to fight Kansu. That's a dope fucking fight. But if you ask the American boxing fan, they don't know dick and balls about Kansu. They don't know dick and balls about Josh. They barely know him. But they don't know dick and balls about Kansu. I'm like, see, this is what I'm talking about. You just looking at who Fox is telling you to watch. Literally, that's what you're doing. Fox has these guys, and you only watch these guys. You don't realize, it's good fights to be made all over the place. And if anything, that makes the sport better because then it's like, all right, well, the welterweights ain't doing what I want. Let me go see what these featherweights is doing. And I could get some good fights if I watch the featherweight division. Now, these cats, let's just watch Rolly Romero rob this Dominican kid. Let's just watch that. Let's just watch that.
Well, I think
it was outrageous robberies, right? It's like that word robbery gets thrown around a lot. And most of the time, that was a straight stick-up job. Like he had the mask on, the guns out. It wasn't. It was ridiculous.
That was a fucking robbery, though. And I'm like, you're literally. It's like, I don't know. Like, the boxing community here is just they weird a little bit because I'm like, yo, dog. You realize that it's mad different divisions, right? They ain't good just because Fox told you they was good. They ain't good just because Showtime told you they was good. And there's so many tribalist sentiments here that they cut themselves off from the rest of the world of boxing the same way that the PBC does. Because I'm like, look, I know that I don't like the PBC as a company, but I'll tell you in a heartbeat, David Benavidez is a dangerous motherfucker. He's dangerous. He is dangerous. All right? Caleb Plant is a very educated boxer. So even though I don't like the PBC, I still see that they got some good fighters in there. Whereas if you ask these cats, Lomachenko is a hype job. He's a hype job because another top-ranked fighter fought him? Think about it, bro. The guy you like did not fight him. A top-ranked fighter. It took a top-ranked fighter to beat him. But top rank only makes hype jobs, apparently.
But you've done video after video about this, Julius. It's Al Heyman's methodology of trying to transplant how you promote a musician into the boxing arena.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. He's trying to sell a gimmick, not a fighter.
But that's all he understands. That's the type of marketing he understands. He doesn't understand that competition is what sells sport. Uncertainty, not knowing the outcome, is what really gets people interested.
Yeah, precisely. And that right there is the crux of what Canelo's going through, which I've touched on before. Is like there's no intrigue. You know what I mean? Even his upcoming fight, no matter what they try to do to sell it, I think everyone's taking it as a foregone conclusion.
This is what I was saying to you, Lennox, that someone involved the DAZN platform should try and build Bivol as a rival for Canelo, because if they could market Bivol, Bivol's got the ability to beat him. He might not, but that's a real fight for Canelo.
Well, yeah, I think he does, and I also think Canelo stays the fuck away from him.
Yeah,
Even at
Sure,
168.
because now
Canelo's
Canelo's
not gonna fight that guy, and I'm not trying to knock Canelo, but you got to take it for what it is. What the fuck do I get? And I'm not excusing it. I'm not condoning or condemning. I'm just saying what it is. If I'm Canelo, why would I want to fight this frustrating motherfucker? For what? I'm not going to get a lot of money doing it. I could fight fucking Joe Dominican and get.
That's why they need to build it though, because he's already said that he'd go to 168. So he needs to get a title at 168.
Yeah, well, here's the thing.
And there needs to be some buzz. See, it's not just next fight. They need to build it as a rival.
From what John's saying, yeah, I get where John's coming from, because you got some genuine intrigue, right? You got a guy who you think can actually beat Canelo. Then there's the actual genuine sporting intrigue there. But that's also the reason why Canelo would take the route that Julius is pointing out.
But
like, yeah, I don't need these problems.
Now that he's left Golden Boy, we've got a contract now with a giant in the 168 division who's not got a rehydration clause.
That's true. And I thought that
was all of that A-side shit Oscar. Because Oscar was fucked if Canelo lost, or he was scared of Canelo losing. Because if Canelo went out on his shield, yeah, and fought like a warrior, the Mexicans would stay with him anyway.
That's true. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I feel like Canelo's career would actually be more invigorated if he took a loss than if he went to the current path.
I agree with you. I totally agree. And if he did it like a true Mexican warrior, the Mexicans would embrace him, wouldn't they?
Yeah, because you see what I'm saying. Yeah, if man took a loss, then everyone now was interested, like, in a rematch. Like, oh yeah, this, that, like, oh, there's a possibility. But right now, even for the hardest of hardcore fans, you have a hard time seeing anything other than, like, you know what I mean? And it's not like Canelo's putting on these beautiful boxing displays while I'm watching it just for the boxing. You know what I mean? So it's like, what am I?
Yeah, you know, he needs a rival.
But that's why I'm saying
Canelo needs a rival. He doesn't have a rival.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you the truth.
Bivol's profile.
He fucked himself. He fucked, and some people are not gonna agree with me on this. I know Ahmed isn't, but he fucked himself. If he would have lost that Golovkin fight, that would have made the second fight bigger. The robbery,
exactly.
The robbery. And it's kind of the same thing with Wilder if you think about it. It's kind of the same thing. If Fury would have won the belt instead of it being a draw, the second fight fuck around would have been even bigger than it was. Now, the controversy did make it bigger. We could see that. 325 versus 800,000. So it was bigger. But if Wilder would have actually lost, bro, you still got a rematch clause and you can exercise it, and he has to honor it, because there would have actually been an outcome, and it would have been better for you if that happened. Because in America, and I think that people don't realize this, every boxing fan around the world likes to watch you rise, likes to watch you fall and rise again. It happened to Ali.
Yeah, and this man in the middle of my avatar, you know, if he hadn't have lost to Schmeling, he wouldn't have had the biggest fight of his career.
Exactly.
The fight of the century was purely because he had lost.
Yeah, that's
you got guys. You got see Al is getting all this credit for Floyd, and they're just looking at the Mayweather model, which we've talked about a lot of times. That the guy has to stay unbeaten. The guy loses. The guy doesn't have to lose his luster because he loses a fight. But Al Heyman don't, and people are gonna think I'm crazy when I say this, but Al Heyman don't know how to sell boxing because he doesn't understand what the essence of boxing is. He doesn't know
precisely. You know what a good parallel is to that when you want to use music, yeah. You know how many groups their man tried to create to emulate the Jackson 5, and none of them were ever as successful as the Jackson 5. So that just shows you that, like, just because there's one less thing, if you don't have the key ingredient, remember, pretty much every boy band ever, yeah, from I think the closest one was probably New Edition, yeah, was created to emulate the Jackson 5.
Yep.
But when you look at it historically, which one of them ones there are actually as close to the Jackson 5?
None, man. None. The Jackson 5 changed music. Floyd Mayweather, he did change boxing. In some ways for the better, because I'm for the fighters taking a more active role in their careers. But that's not what's happening at PBC. And that's the illusion. They're like, yeah, I'm my own. Fucking. So when you gonna stage a card, bro? When are you going to stage a card? Orchestrate a fight? Because you're a fucking promoter.
How many times have we also said that none of these boxers want to do the hard work that Floyd did to start off with at the beginning of his career when he established himself?
Look at
it's
Thurman,
like they only
bro.
look at the second half.
Julio Diaz, Soto Caras, and Diego Chavez. He thinks he's king shit of the welterweights. He thought he was king shit when Errol wanted to fight him before he became a unified champion. Or for Julio Diaz, Soto Caras, and Diego Chavez, this dude thinks he's too good to fight Errol Spence Jr. You could have nipped that in the bud if you would have fought him when he wanted to fight you. You could have nipped that in the bud so he don't make it to the IBF title. Nah, you want to make excuses. Let me tell you the truth about the truth. All right, bro, you just saying a lot of shit that tell me you don't want to fight. That's what that shows me. That wouldn't have happened in that James Toney era, man. You don't make it, bro. Like I think it's Beats that said it. Mike Tyson deflated a lot of motherfuckers, man. He stopped a lot of motherfuckers from being something. Why? Because he took their ass out. You didn't see my. Well, he got to fight so and so first. Then I fight. Like, all right, bro. All right, bro. I see what you're doing. I dig it. We'll never know now because I felt that Thurman had a good, frustrating style for Errol. I did feel there was a time when I felt, yeah, this guy's got a good, frustrating style. He can give Errol some problems with his movement and all of that. Yeah, good chance. Now he's missed the glass, so we'll never know.
The thing, I think you're right in what your assessment was, but I'm suspicious the first time Spence landed a body shot on him, he would have gone, even when he was at his best, because he didn't look like he liked it on the inside with Sean Porter at all when they fought. I think he's always been glass to the body. I mean, we didn't know that until the Porter fight. So what you're saying is logical, but I think that would have been the outcome if it had have happened.
It's possible,
but we don't know. I mean, that's the crap thing about the welterweight division. We've got all these unanswered questions because they just don't want to fight.
Yeah, and that's a division. The bad advertisement in that is that is a division that is dominated by homegrown American fighters, and this is what the fuck we have to deal with.
Well, nah, but you get what I'm saying, yeah, because I think man said this in one of your lives before. I said, yeah, what happens in a year or two when all these PBC guys, and man, are no longer it. You know what I mean? And it's getting to the end of the road.
They're not it now. Like, I got a video coming up, and I don't want to talk about what it's about, but like, it's Kevin Iole touched on it, and he's 100% right. Like, dog, y'all just celebrating dumb shit. Like, none of these cats are stars, bro. None of them.
Yeah, but you see what I was saying. Yeah, what happens when the rest of these men, because it looks like man like Eddie Hills is building a little roster there. It looks like there's a potential welterweight roster brewing over at Top Rank. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the things going to change. So I'm saying, so you can't keep recycling. These men all fought each other. At some point, where's the next generation of PBC welterweights? Because I don't see it. Is it going to be Boots? And Boots is one man.
They got Dulorme. They got Dulorme and they got Boots. This is what I mean. I'm like, yo, dog, like, y'all putting it all on these cats that's in their early 30s. You do that. You know what I'm saying? Shit. Like, I see that and Golden Boy has Virgil. Eddie's building a welterweight stable. And before it even becomes about alphabet titles, he's going to be able to make some domestic money with those welterweights because there's intriguing situations like Avanesian versus Kelly. That's an intriguing fight. So in the next 2-3 years, what we still going to be talking about Keith Thurman 3 years from now? Sean Porter?
We're going to be talking about Keith in 12 months. How long has it been since he's had a fight, Julius?
It's been over a year, bro.
And have we got any sign of him actually been approaching the welterweight weight limit?
Look at his face, right? I always do this. I look at the guy's face. Look at his face during the interview. Does this guy look like he's in fight? No, you're not training, are you?
Keith is normally these days at around 180 pounds plus, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm saying, bro.
He's a fat man.
and I don't. Once again, I don't say it to be an asshole. I'm just being honest. I saw the interview that he did with I think it's Chandria LeBruff or whatever. She's on Twitter. She just did an interview with him about the 10 million, the 2 million, whatever. Look at his face, bro. You look like a fucking middleweight. So I know you ain't ready to fight nobody. You waiting. You're literally waiting to get in shape for when you have a fight. So like that tells me everything I need to know.
Yeah, but that's another thing. We're talking about the Floyd Mayweather era. When did anybody see Floyd get fat in between fights?
Never.
What? Like they all want to copy Floyd's money and the A-side part, but none of them want to copy his work ethic in the gym.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, yo, have you ever seen Floyd? Let's cut the Floyd Mayweather.
Floyd's not fat now.
That's the wild shit. He ain't even fat now. I'm like, look, the worst condition I've ever seen Floyd Mayweather Jr. in recent memory would have to be the Tenshin Nasukawa fight. You know, he looked a little chubby.
Yeah,
but even that's better.
Smooth. Do you know what I mean? He's just smooth. He's not.
Yeah, like
he's not like his fat older brother or something. Like Keith is normally his fat big brother.
Listen, man. When Tony Harrison had to prepare for the Jermel Charlo rematch, I believe it was Keith Thurman's facilities that they used. I think he got like a little gym set up down there in Florida or something or whatever. And I saw the video. And Keith was fat as fuck, bro. Like he was fat. Like, you're a welterweight? Are you sure? Like, are you sure you're 140 pounds?
Keith has heard there's some easy pickings in the cruiserweight division, so he's stepping up.
He's going for a bridgerweight title. He's gonna be the next bridgerweight champion. All right, bridgerweight, yo. Like he's gonna make history. Like, I am the inaugural bridgerweight champion. Like, and it's common sense arguments. Like Errol. I'll say I liked Errol's fitness for this fight. He looked like he made the weight okay. He looked all right at the weigh-in. He performed well, in my opinion. But, you know, this is a guy who's on borrowed time. You ain't going to be able to keep doing that all the time, bro, because we know you are at the seams, bro. You are to make
I don't know, because Errol actually looked like he'd shed muscle weight as well in this fight.
Yeah, Errol lost
the
step. A lot of people didn't see it because it was against Danny.
I think there's two things. Sorry, Lennox, you say what you say.
No, I was saying that a lot of people were a bit more impressed with Errol and didn't catch it. Errol's actually lost a bit of speed and he's lost a bit of a step. He was in there against a very slow Danny who, you know what I mean, is just not quickest counterpunching from the outside. So you couldn't quite see it. But watch that fight again and really watch Errol.
He wasn't his hand speed though, was it? And his footwork.
Isn't it fair to say that all right, in Lennox's opinion, looks like he might have lost a step. He doesn't look perfect or whatever, right? All I'm gonna say is, well, it's been over a year since he fought, so that could be that we're looking at. Because even
how long did Terrence have out the ring, Julius?
What happened?
I don't know. I mean, he's come off this accident. And he dominated Danny, so he's had a lot.
I think he looked great. If I'm being,
I don't. I am inclined to agree with Lennox. I think his hand speed was down, and his foot coordination was not as good as it was before. And I also think that his musculature has withered. So actually, him making weight wasn't as big a deal as people think it was because he's not bursting at the seams anymore.
Mm.
And it's due to the fact that muscle mass has gone, which could be a good thing for him.
Yeah.
But there wasn't an increase in speed, which you'd expect.
Yeah. You know what he reminded me of? He reminded me a bit of Roy Jones when he came down from heavyweight.
But he had his punch resistance. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the one good thing that came out of the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
because
had the
he
point.
did get touched. He did get touched. A couple of right hands made it through. I saw it, and when I saw that the right hands got through, I gasped like, "Oh shit!" You know what I mean?
He did. You know what, Julius? You know why I say this, right? He did get touched, but he got touched by a guy who couldn't touch his sparring partners. And I was, you know what I mean? I'm not. No. But Julius, you know what?
I agree.
But hang on. But Julius, you know who Danny was sparring, and I was in Philly for the spar. I think you know what I mean? I'm not gonna, yeah, exactly. So
but
that little 135 pounder, yeah, Danny could not land any of those counters on him. And I think I told you, I was like, yeah, if Errol's sharp, he should cruise through this. And then Errol got hit in. I'm telling you, fam, he did not land. And you got to understand, the sparring partner did not have the reach that Errol has. You get me?
Mm-hmm.
So if Danny could not land those counters in sparring against someone with less reach, but was able to land it on Errol, so you get where my point of view is coming from.
But I agree with that, and I think that it's overall. So his coordination, his hand speed, and his reflexes seem to have been diminished.
No. And this is where I'm going to disagree, in the sense that when was the Porter fight? The end of September. That was the end of the Porter fight. So it's been a year and a month, or a year and 2 months, or whatever. I expect that, if you haven't fought and remember, only recently did they let him start sparring, only a few months ago. And everybody was surprised that they was like, so hold on, this whole time he hasn't been sparring? So I'll accept that he didn't look perfect. But for the kind of fight that he fought against Danny, I felt, yeah, because he's bringing it to Danny. He was bringing it to Danny. He was in his chest. He was letting go of body shots. He was moving around him. He didn't look perfect. You know what I mean? He didn't look perfect. But I'm saying, for these circumstances, 13 or 14 months out of the ring, car accident, you're fighting a physical fight where you set the tempo. You're the ring general. You're the aggressor. He fought a good fight. He looked all right. I felt.
Oh yeah. No. I'm not taking away. I'm not saying he looked terrible. I'm just saying. I'm saying that a lot of people, because of what we expected, a lot of people are overlooking things that were clearly there.
They're doing more than that, Lennox. Some of the things that I heard after that fight were basically that not only is Errol by far and away the best current welterweight, that he doesn't need to fight Crawford. I heard people on YouTube celebrating how far out in front Errol was and how much better than Terence he proved he was by this performance against Danny.
Oh, well, I mean,
I don't know about that, because I saw that fight and I was worried for Errol. I said, if he fights Crawford, Crawford stops him.
I think Crawford stops him as well. I've always thought he has.
That's what I was going to allude to. That look, you look that way against an orthodox fighter that isn't even much of a jabber, who has slow feet, slow hands, is not that athletic. He's gonna let you take the lead. Like if this was a dance, if this was like a dance, right? Danny would be low key. I'm not trying to be funny, but he would be the female because you letting him lead. That's why you're always just short of what the other guy's doing, because you let them set the tempo. You let them lead. You're not gonna have no southpaw advantage with Crawford, bro. I'll tell you that right now, and that's gonna be the game changer. That he'll come out southpaw, and off top, that's gonna make things difficult for you. Spence's best chance against Crawford to win rounds is in the beginning, because Terence usually takes a good 2 to 3 rounds before he starts getting in his groove. After that, it's motherfucking Omaha, Nebraska time, bro. He is gonna fuck you up.
Also, people are thinking that Spence is going to KO Crawford, but I don't see why they're so sold on his power.
Me neither.
It's as soon as Errol stepped up, the power is not really there.
Me neither.
It's like Wilder all over again. It's like when Wilder steps up, the power's not there. So to me, it's not real.
I think that Spence can let's put it this way.
So can Wilder can knock someone out. He can punch.
Yeah, like he can. Spence can punch. Spence can punch.
But this idea that he just knocks everybody out.
No, he's not knocking. And I'm telling you right now, if it goes down, and I'm taking bets, Terence Crawford stops Sean Porter. He stops him.
I think people are missold, and I think a lot of people who've never spent any time in any form of gym, whether it's lifting gym or a boxing gym, don't understand that you can be physically skinny, have a lot of physical strength, and hit like a train.
Yeah.
They don't understand that that's possible. They can't make that mental jump in their head.
But
like Terence is extremely strong, as well as having outstanding power, and they just don't get it.
Yeah.
Y'all gotta go sit in the room. I'm not kidding. Y'all gotta sit in the room, right? No, I did not.
But Lennox,
Yeah.
did you not see that Errol's coordination with his footwork was poor as well?
Yeah, no, I noticed a lot of things. Like, you know what I mean? I was, but in retrospect, right, I was expecting him to look worse. So I understand where all the mandem are coming from with the
I get where they're
you look
coming
great.
from, because he had a dominant performance.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you were paying closer attention to certain things, you'd feel like, yeah, I saw things there that weren't right.
Yeah, like his hand speed, I think his reflexes weren't. I mean, I'm not they were going on about his head movement, but he was still getting touched.
Okay, Jojo.
So what's the point of moving your head if you're getting touched anyway?
Well, that's the point, and I'm not gonna put it on blast here of who Danny was sparring in preparation.
No, you don't need to do that.
But I'll tell you, I'll message you and tell you he was sparring, and off the sparring, I told Julius, I said, you know what I mean? Like I was
remember
you
saying it, because there's a few things you've been saying.
But look, even beyond the sparring, right? And I viewed Danny as a tune-up fight. A lot of people gave me a lot of shit.
You made a song about it, didn't you? Did you make a song about it, Julius?
I did. Danny Garcia is a tune-up fight. I said Danny is a tune-up fight. As soon as they announced that fucking fight, this is a tune-up fight, bro. His style is tailor-made for Errol Spence. It's tailor-made for him. So I'm
That's what Timothy Bradley said. You don't even it's out there, isn't it?
Bro, I did a video on it. I'm just saying, before Tim said that, bro, as soon as this fight was announced, that's a tune-up fight. You just
I was live when it was close to it being confirmed as a date for it, and that's all you had to say.
And you look at the performance, right? Look at the performance and tell me that he wasn't tuning up with Danny. That's what the fuck he was doing. He was tuning up with Danny, because Danny's not gonna pressure you. Danny ain't gonna walk you down. Danny's not a volume puncher. He ain't athletic. He don't have. And I'm not trying to knock him, but am I lying?
Where has he even got power at 147? I mean, what has Danny actually got?
I think he does have
respectable power, but not turn your lights out power.
Well, you got Keith Thurman blowing smoke up people's asses, saying, "Well, he's the strongest puncher I ever fought." Bro, he didn't knock you down. You know who did? Manny Pacquiao. But
that's like Eric Molina saying Wilder hits harder than Joshua.
And I don't qualify
the first time Joshua touched Molina, he disintegrated.
Bro, Joshua touched Molina, and it was like the last scene in Infinity War. He just evaporated. Like he turned.
If you look at Joshua's face, there's like a slight look of surprise that he was expecting more resistance. It's like it's just the opening. He just opened his hands up a bit and he just disappeared.
I think that's the difference between keeping your head down and doing the work, as opposed to admiring your own work. Wilder's going in there with guys, which is what we saw in the Fury fight, and he's expecting that as soon as I lay a finger on him with my right hand, the guy's gonna poof, evaporate. Whereas if you're working and you're getting off your shots, and you're not necessarily looking for the knockout, but you are looking to connect, it's gonna happen. Sometimes it'll happen inadvertently. Like you be shocked, like, oh shit, I thought you could take those because I saw the Wilder fight. Guess not. Shit, 2 rounds. You're not gonna sell me, and I don't care what anybody says because I'm looking at the fight. You're not gonna sell me that Wilder hits harder than Joshua. I'm sorry. There's no premise for me to believe that.
There's not a lot of people who can sell me that Wilder hits harder than any of the other decent punches in this current crop of heavyweights.
I feel like Wilder's power is there with Povetkin's.
Yeah,
that's where I feel it is.
But Povetkin's is totally different because it's so accurate and it's so clean.
Yeah. Hey, Julius, you saw the You saw the promos, the DAZN promos for this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had them here.
Huh?
You're getting them. I need to see them.
Well, you guys over there get to hear Adam Smith. Wait,
No.
Welterweight's
But
going
okay,
to the ring.
hang on. John, I'll tell you what footage. Yeah, so there's full footage of him working the pads with Joby and hitting the bag with Joby with the white gloves. They only used about, I don't know, I think I've seen the Sky promo, but the Sky promo uses a lot of the same footage because it was only one crew in Sheffield. But without giving too much away, all I'm gonna say is hand speed.
But people, you do know that Anthony Joshua's run 100 meters under 11 seconds.
Look.
AJ is a fast twitch individual.
Listen,
When he
AJ.
relaxes, when he gets truly relaxed in the ring, the speed is just going to get quicker.
John, there is an unwritten rule that when we're talking about Anthony Joshua, we can't say nothing nice. We can't. It's not like we can go anything, right?
Yeah, I know it means you're a matchroom fanboy and you know nothing about boxing.
Yeah, like we like, you know what I mean? Like I look at the guy in the same, and I don't think most people do this. I don't think they realize it. But when I think of AJ, I think of Clarissa, I think of Katie, I think of Andre, I think of the gold medal that Roy should have got, right? I think of the gold medal that Floyd should have got. And what I see is this is a highly fucking competitive individual because those are the kind of people it takes to make it that far in the amateur scene. You got to have that desire to be.
It's the way he was able to succeed with like virtually nothing in Bacau. Like, have you watched this? The final of the Worlds from 2011, Julius?
No.
You need to watch that Majidov fight because AJ had no experience going into that. And Majidov had knocked out Camarelli and Savan going into the final. And people want to talk about AJ's chin. I'm so sick of hearing this weak chin.
Yeah, but you know what? Since we can't say anything nice about Joshua, I just want to point out
that you got to remember, if you was in America, right, when both the Klitschko brothers arrived, because of the Corey Saunders fight, oh, Vlad is this chinny guy. He can't take a shot. He's going to fall apart. We believed that. And in the subsequent 9-10 fucking years after that, we see what happened. So I learned my lesson with him, and I learned my lesson with Lennox. When they was talking about the Rockmore fight. Oh, he's this chinny guy. He ain't shit. In hindsight, I realized how fucking stupid the guy was.
That's one of my biggest regrets in life. In the UK, we all knew Lennox was going to lose because he'd been filming on the set of Oceans, whichever one it was, 12 or 13 or whatever it was. And he hadn't acclimatized to altitude. That fight was at altitude, and he didn't go there in time to acclimatize. And if you listen back to Marvin Hagler commentating on it, from about the third or fourth round, he's saying Lennox's mouth is open. And he was like completely exhausted from being at altitude. And Ruckman can punch. Yeah. And he landed on him for flush. And it's heavyweight boxing.
But you know what I want to say, though? I'm glad Pulev looks like he came to fight. Pulev looks fit. Pulev looks trim. Pulev looks like he came to fight. So, man's gas for Saturday.
Listen, man.
Yeah. Look, we're the only two Lennox. No one's gassed apart from us.
No. I'd be surprised that the same way I said that. Look, Danny's a tune-up, right? Pulev is a top 10 fighter. He looks to be in the best condition I've ever seen him, at least in recent memory. He's slimmer. He looks like he's going for athleticism. He looks like he wants to fight in the pocket, get inside on AJ, and try to duplicate Andy's success. That's kind of the impression that I'm getting. But I'll be surprised if this man sees the 6th round. I'll be surprised if the man sees the 6th round. Because I got a feeling, man. And I've said this months ago. AJ is gonna come out on his killer shit. That's what's gonna happen.
But I've been listening to Kubrat's chat, and some of the things that he said he likes AJ's tan, and that's the only thing he likes about him. So I want Kubrat to get the beating he's earned.
Yeah,
I want to see him get hurt. He's been
fam. No. To be honest, like I really, I'm glad that he's in shape, and I want him to put up a solid fight. And I'm gassed. Like I don't want a one-way demolition. I mean, I know it's what it's going to be, but I want him to go out swing.
I want to see a skillful dissection of a skillful opponent, and then watch him get taken out cleanly.
Listen, man, this guy went life. Well, I ain't gonna say he went life or death, but come on, bro. Like Rydell Booker, bro.
Yeah, boy, I think he's a bit more motivated. Julius, he looks more motivated.
He does, and I know
he is a skilled operator.
He is. But you know, they posted this very recently about the Vladimir Klitschko fight. That when Vladimir fought Pulev many years ago, Pulev was 33. Vlad took him out, right? So I am expecting a little better from Anthony Joshua. That like I think when did Vlad knock him out? Was it the 6th or before the 6th? That's I like yo dog. I'm expecting. The only way that Pulev sees the 5th and the 6th round is if Anthony Joshua lets him. Because I feel like if he connects on this guy's going out, bro. Bogdan Dinu damn near took you out, bro. He's a part-time boxer, all right? Part-time boxer. He's part of the Romanian SWAT team. So I feel like, look, AJ is going to get back on his fucking you up shit, knocking you out shit. And Pulev earned that beating, and I want him to get what he deserves. You've been talking a lot of shit. I want to see what Bob has to say after the fight.
Yeah, but Bob will just
Anthony Joshua. Pulev is good. All right, Bob. You doing that shit you did with Joseph Parker now, ain't you? Before that,
I actually want to see what Tyson Fury's going to have to say for himself. Because AJ's going to get no credit for this win, no matter how he does it. All of the shit has already been said.
But that accents the bullshit, because this is what I mean. If it's so fucking easy, and this is why sometimes boxing is a sport that is very difficult to like and even more difficult to talk about. Y'all cool letting Fury fight Tom Schwartz and Otto Verleen. You understand? Now, respect to Otto, but we know why Fury picked him. You know, you didn't think that Otto was going to do that to you. That's why you picked him. You didn't think that was going to happen. I think it was a blessing in disguise that the fight was hard, so it could wake Fury up like, yo, don't come in here thinking it's gimme fights. These kids out here trying to take your head off, all right? So it was a blessing in disguise, but we know why you picked that guy. Why couldn't you have picked Dillian White? Remember, after the Tom Schwartz fight, the WBC ordered White versus Fury. That fight does money in the UK. Don't tell me it don't. That
yeah,
fight
money. Dillian would actually be the one selling it as much as Tyson, because Tyson doesn't sell tickets here. He never has.
So yeah. You decided to fight a lesser ranked, lesser known opponent, and that tells me that you was trying to play it safe. You didn't think that go in there and do that to him. They didn't think that. I
actually think they thought that they were going to have some highlight reel knockouts to help sell Tyson. And that's why.
Yeah, of course. That was the plan. Yeah. That was the plan. That was absolutely the plan.
They probably looked at when Otto had fought on the undercard of Shields versus Hammer, and they figured, yo, let's get that guy, because that's probably going to be like the Tom Schwartz fight. And what they got was a surprise. They got a fucking surprise. They didn't pick him expecting a hard fight.
But this is the other. So there's two things out there that you can't say anything good about AJ. But the other thing is you're not allowed to criticize Tyson Fury's technique.
No, of course
but
not.
Tyson cannot throw a technically correct punch. His footwork isn't that technically correct either.
But you know what? I was gonna tweet this, because I've been obviously watching fights this week. I've been watching a lot of Pulev, and I watched. I was gonna tweet this. Hang on. I was gonna tweet this. I was gonna tweet and say that I would rather go back and watch the Jacobs Rosado fight again than see the Fury Wilder fight. I mean, the Fury Klitschko fight again. And that on my mom. That is the truth. Because I've tried watching that fight again, and it's one of the worst fights. And I'm someone who likes chess matches and clinical boxing.
It's not really a chess match, though, is it?
I agree. It's a cringeworthy fight. I mean, as far as aesthetic value, because this is entertainment after all, that was just a very like. You think Lawrence Okolie is hard to watch? Watch that fucking fight.
Did you see Lawrence on the pads? Lawrence was showing a jab. If Lawrence can learn how to jab, he might become.
Bro, I've been saying that shit for 4 fights, bro. I've given up hope.
Do you know how I describe Lawrence's jab normally? It's like a blind man looking for a light switch in the dark.
It is though. Look, he could have a good stiff piston jab and just keep putting it out there. If he paused with the jab,
if he went body head with a stiff jab, he wouldn't have these people getting inside him, or it'd make it difficult for them to get in there.
But sometimes he goes in. The worst thing about Lawrence is if they don't get inside on him, he gets inside like, bro, why are you getting inside on them? You're bigger, taller, have more wingspan. You could literally like Lyndon Arthur. But Lawrence Okolie needs to watch the Lyndon Arthur Anthony Yard fight. That could be you with that fantastic jab. That could be you.
But he was showing it on the pads, Julius. Now I don't know if he's going to be able to replicate it under the lights, but at least
that's the difference.
Throw it. No, I know I know it's the difference, but the fact that he can actually do it is a start, surely.
You know what? I was back. You know what I mean? When we finished the edit, I went back to start watching. Oh, by the way, you know who man like Femi's watching in camp? Joby's got him watching Stevenson and Savon.
Does it?
Okay. Joby's got him watching Stevenson and Savon. Yeah, man's got him studying Stevenson and Savon. Like, it's just mad because the footage was so different because, like, you got AJ actually studying fights now, which is like, you know what I mean? We've cut a few reels from the Klitschko fight on, and there was a lot of differences in this camp than the other ones.
Lennox, do you know how much shadowboxing he's actually doing?
Loads.
He is?
Yes.
Because I just don't understand why shadowboxing has died. It's like the one thing you can do when you don't have a fight that you can't really injure yourself.
Well, the trainer that does not get enough public highlight that's making the biggest difference in the style is Joby Clayton. I keep saying this. Joby. I said Joby Clayton. The man them keep talking about Angel Fernandez. Joby Clayton. Joby Clayton is the man that's really, really making the difference in the style.
Look, man, Povetkin is gonna get the shit beaten out of him. Okay, cool. Let me fucking Pulev, my fault, Pulev.
But what I was going to say,
how he does it. You see, I want to see if he uses his intelligence to break him down and sets it up, or if he just steamrolls it.
No, he's not going to steamroll him. I don't think we're going to see. We're not going to see any steamroll jobs anymore.
No, because the power's there, and if he can just relax and use his brain, because AJ's not a stupid person, and if you're intelligent, then boxing is the sport for you. Really, it's for people that think and think on the fly.
I think that's the role that shadow boxing plays. I honestly think that's the role. That's what you derive out of shadow boxing. Andre Ward, big guy on shadow boxing.
I think there's a few things. So there's that. You can stay in shape because you can have a really good workout for shadow boxing without injuring yourself or having to spar.
Mm-hmm. It's a low intensity exercise.
Yeah, and the other thing that is underestimated is to actually generate good power. Your upper body needs to be relaxed.
Yeah,
and the more often you do something, the more fluid you become.
Yeah, so because the punches have to flow. You don't want your body to be tense when you're letting them off. The punches have to flow. That's why Larry Holmes' jab was like water. It flows. It's not like he's all tense when he's throwing it. He just throws, he lets it go.
If there's going to be tension, it's coming from your hips and your legs. It's not. It cannot. The only time you want your arms to be tense is actually at a point of impact. And that should be like a reflex. It shouldn't. You shouldn't be doing it consciously. It should just be a total reflex thing. And shadow boxing is the best way to develop all of those attributes and stay in shape while you don't have a fight.
So all right, so I guess before I shut the live down, because I got to get ready to do some shit. We're all in agreement that Pulev, he's gonna get fucking butchered, right? I mean,
But I'm just hoping it's in style.
all right, that's one. And to the existential question, if Wilder were from the United Kingdom, if he came up there as opposed to here, and he had the exact same career, would he be received better by the Brits than he has been by the Americans? Your thoughts?
The problem that Wilder's got is his personality type is often rejected here. That's why Tyson Fury is not popular. Something that the Americans don't understand is Frank Bruno and AJ are popular here because people's mum and grandma and sister like them because they're not offensive. They've got
marketability. It is marketability that Wilder's personality would be received as brash. Even there, he would not be well received because of his personality. My contention is he gets beat at the UK domestic level, that he doesn't make it. That if the scenario is, okay, let's take Wilder when he was a prospect and let's match him the way we've seen UK prospects match, I'm telling you, I don't think he makes it. Why?
Well, let's put that on AJ. AJ's domestic level big clash was Dillian White.
Yeah.
And it was a true test.
Yeah. And
yeah.
That's what I was deferring to. That look, what I see in the United Kingdom that I don't see in the United States, the process is that in the United Kingdom, when they got two unbeaten prospects, they don't keep them away from each other. They make them fight. We just saw that with Dubois and Joyce.
But the other thing, the bit I don't get about why this is lost in translation in America, Dillian White sells pay-per-views with no world titles. If he hadn't have put up a good fight and gone out on his shield against AJ, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. Look at, I think a lot of people forgave Anthony Yard for the Kovalev fight, that they didn't really count it against him. You know what I mean? That it's like, well, come on, it was a big step up in competition and he did okay. So I kind of viewed the Yard versus Lyndon Arthur fight in that kind of scope, to where, like, all right, Yard has a loss, but look at who it's to. Lyndon Arthur don't have that kind of experience. So it's still that kind of situation to where you got two guys that have potential and you're making them fight. Whereas in the States, I'm telling you, they wouldn't have did it that way. Look at the lightweight division. Look at it.
But when did this start to happen, Julius? Because it used to happen.
I'm going to say I would say I started noticing it the last 10 years. I would say, and at least when I became privy to it, that if you got two guys that look like they have a high ceiling and they have potential, odds are the promoters are not going to make them fight. They're going to try to build the fight because they want everything to be a cash grab. That you're not even building fighters anymore. You're just trying to stage cash grabs. So you're going to keep these guys away from each other. Felix Verdejo is 27 years old. He's just now fighting Nakatani.
Well, this is what I don't understand, because the whole time that this practice has been going on, the money that the sport of boxing has been generating has been declining in the States.
Because they don't want to take it. I mean, the other thing about it is, and Bob gets a lot of shit from a lot of people, but if you listen to what he said, he's saying the same thing we're saying. The pay-per-views cost too much. They need to go back down to $50. The other thing is, everybody don't belong on pay-per-view. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. Everybody don't belong on pay-per-view.
The only reason for doing it is there's so much buzz for the fight, everyone's going to pay for it. And the only way you can generate that type of buzz is when people know the fighters. So you need to expose them first. So if they go straight to pay-per-view, nobody knows who they are.
Exactly. Like, look at Davis, right? Look at Davis. You're fighting on a premium cable network.
I said that.
You're fighting on a premium cable network. That already limits the audience that you're going to appeal to. This network does not have the reach of an ESPN or a Fox. So you really not getting seen like that. They put you on pay-per-view. What do? 225,000. And you know what? We could talk about the COVID and we could talk about all that, but the UFC's moving 1 million pay-per-view buys, ain't they? They are. So why are we supposed to make excuses for you? If they were interested in you, they would have bought your fight. That's just the truth of it. We can't say, oh, well, because of the COVID.
It goes back to the same thing, though. The UFC sells because people believe They're going to see genuine fights where so either fighter could lose.
Yeah.
And it's competitive. So they're bought into the brand of UFC.
Because they know, and it goes back to what me, you, and Lennox was just talking about, that the problem that Canelo has, that he could go in there with a quality guy, because Callum is a quality guy. He's a champion. He's an unbeaten champion. But because there's no intrigue, people don't respect the fight. Because there's no intrigue. They're like, come on, Callum Smith, he ain't going to beat this kid. That's how they look at the fight.
The best thing that could happen to Canelo in this fight now would be for Callum to win on points.
I think with the lack of it's encouraging that there's no rehydration clause. That is encouraging, because I was really surprised when I saw that. Like, wow, y'all gonna let Callum come in here big and strong and ready to punch you in your face?
I think I left a comment on one of your posts that I said it was interesting, the first contract without Oscar, without Golden Boy. We don't see this ace side tactics going on.
Yep, that's really because then all right, then we know we're gonna get a Callum, and the other thing is that there was a lot of talk about. I think the fight was what, 4 weeks? 4 weeks notice, was it?
It's 4 or 5. I mean, the Canelo detractors have pointed this out, that it's a short notice fight.
But I'm thinking, if you heard what Callum said, he said that that in so many words he was expecting to get the fight and he stayed ready for it. So for me, that takes away the excuses. They're like, you knew that you might get this phone call, and you
Callum's in shape. Callum's always in shape anyway.
Yeah.
And anyone in that division should have watched enough Canelo tape. The only thing potentially there could be is a lack of sparring partners to mimic Canelo, but that's not an easy thing to do anyway.
And I follow Tesco Joe on Twitter. I mean on Instagram. Him or his fighters, Callum Johnson, Natasha Jonas, they live in the gym, bro. They live in the gym, bro.
Yeah, the only problem they've all got is they've got Joe teaching them how to box.
Ah, come on, you ain't got to do that.
The work ethic is. Come on, Julius. Joe is not a proponent of the sweet science. We're talking about people who don't have a good stiff jab, and we're talking about a 6'3" super middleweight with a 78-inch reach.
Look, I got a soft spot for Joe. I like Joe better than I like Sanchez. I like Joe. He's all right.
They're a muchness of the same. Like, Troy was talking about a lack of good trainers. Yeah, and the fact that these guys can even play a living highlights how scarce it is to find a truly great trainer these days. Like, Joe's terrible. He is terrible.
Oh my God!
You tell me when any of his fighters have stepped up that they've executed a well thought out game plan.
That's fair, because even the Groves fight, and I felt that Groves was winning that fight before he got knocked out. He was winning that fight on my card, I think it was.
Yeah, they're so predictable. There's no nuance. There's no adapting to their attributes. Like, we've got a 6'3", 78-inch to work with. And you're telling me that what's Fury's trainer? Emmanuel Steward's nephew.
Sugar Hill.
If Sugar had Callum,
yeah, he'd be better.
Imagine how good he could be.
I think, honestly, for Callum, the guy that I would like to match him with is Jonathan Banks. For Callum,
that could work. Jonathan Banks, even John David Jackson.
Yeah.
I don't rate him that highly, but he'd do a better job than Tesco.
I don't got time for that. Look, Clarissa went to John David Jackson, right? And she started looking kind of
I'm not really a fan of Clarissa's style of boxing.
No, she fights like an amateur. She fights like an amateur.
It's a lot of volume and not a lot of nuance and not a lot of power.
And that's why just before I go off, because I got to do some stuff. But the longer this fight takes to make, I'm starting to get this feeling that Savannah's gonna knock her out, because Savannah has a pro style. That's a pro style.
I'm convinced Savannah will knock her out. I'm not sure Clarissa will fight her.
That's the other thing. That fight could get lost in the red tape of, oh, well, you got to give me X, Y, and Z. Bro, you just told everybody that Showtime told you you don't have a big following. That's
Did
what
you
they
hear
told
what
you.
Beats had to say about it on his post?
Nah, go ahead. What did he say?
Beats was saying when Clarissa was moaning about the money and going to this MMA thing, that what she should do is swallow her pride, come to the UK, build the fight to fight Savannah.
I think that's a sensational idea. Like, I honestly do. But she it's like, and this is a bigger conversation. This is just a bigger conversation than we got time for that. Look, you got the accolades, but it's not about the accolades, it's about the tickets, it's about the revenue, it's about what you're generating. That's what it's about.
And the style.
Look,
because I mean, I'll be honest, right? There's a large section of the population that find Clarissa to be an attractive lady. So that sells. That sells.
Yeah.
Like, okay, she's got a bit of a heel attitude, but again, you can sell that.
Yeah.
No knockout highlight reel.
Well, this is the thing. I try not to hold that against her, because what I see is that you still
Did
fight.
You see Shannon?
She fights like an amateur. Like
Yeah,
she fights like it's amateur boxing.
But that doesn't. But it's not even a highly skilled amateur. It's a volume amateur approach.
Because she's in love with her speed. She's in love with her speed. We got to remember that the coach, her longtime coach that she had with her for a long time or whatever, she parted ways with that person. She went to John David Jackson. I don't think much of John David Jackson as a trainer. I don't.
So do you think Kovalev had all his attributes when he arrived?
Yes. I think that he was already more or less a complete fighter, and he just needed somebody to go through the motions.
I mean, there's that real potential with Kovalev because he was so old and he'd done so much already.
That's what I'm saying. It's kind of like Golovkin and Sanchez. Is Golovkin because of Sanchez, or was he already Golovkin? You know, how much are we attributing?
Well, the test is if they can replicate it.
Yeah.
And Sanchez hasn't.
Well, I give Abel credit for Gassiev. I could at least give him credit.
But that could be the same situation because that Eastern school produces fighters.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, yeah, that's I look at Kovalev in the same spectrum as Golovkin. That when you got him, he already more or less had what he needed. You know, like maybe you contributed a bit, but he didn't get to being who he is because of you. So I look at Clarissa and I'm like, I feel like she stagnated as far as transitioning from an amateur style to a pro style, because she's, to me, fighting like an amateur who's in love with their hand speed. You just throw
arm punches, though. I mean, there's nothing behind them at all.
Yeah,
and she's a strong girl.
She's in love with, I think she's in love with her hand speed because she just lets go of these flurries when you could be picking your shots to hurt the other girl.
And she's square and she's open. Like, if Savannah can take those punches,
I think she can. Moreover, Clarissa is already about, let's say, 4 years into her professional career. She debuted the same year as Katie, right? So you're used to these girls that they don't know what the hell to do with your speed. That they like a deer in the headlights.
It's Wilder syndrome. It's like you don't develop because of the soft opposition.
Yeah, and I try not to hold it against her because it's that bit of it is bigger than her. That those divisions are ghost towns right now till the Tokyo Olympics come through and those amateurs turn professional. Those divisions, 154, 160, 168, they're going to be barren until those amateurs go pro. So you fought who was there. That's the most you could have did. You fought who was there. But those girls, I'm telling you, motherfucking Savannah, they ain't Savannah. That girl is something else. She's something different.
But the thing is, Eddie could build that here.
Of course. But Savannah, I mean, Clarissa doesn't want to have to take the back seat to anyone. And that's an ideological argument.
She's got that Floyd thing going on as well, that she's the A side.
Yeah, and that's what I mean, that you can't start fixing the problems when you're not honest about the situation. So what's the situation? You're one of the most accomplished women boxers in the entire sport. One of the most accomplished amateur in this country, you understand? As far as the girls. You have these accolades, but you have to understand that your problem isn't your accolades, it's your ticket sales. You have to be willing to work, and you have to accept that, no, you're not a superstar. If you want to become a superstar, you got to do X, Y, and Z. Let Eddie do it for you. He can build it. But, you know, that's the thing about entitlement. You know, entitlement gets in the way of a lot of shit. Wilder could have got a lot of money losing to Anthony Joshua. You fucked yourself
He
out.
might have won.
That's the other thing. They always say that. They're like, yo,
Right.
dog, maybe he would have won. We'll never know because of your
I
fucking
don't think
entitlement
he has
issues.
this overhyped power that people talk about. But Wilder can knock people out, and we're talking about heavyweights. And I've said this to you on more than one occasion. If you're a heavyweight that relies on your chin, it's going to go badly for you because they can all be knocked out.
Yeah.
So he had a puncher's chance at least.
And that's I say that's the sad part, that if you really look at it, your entitlement issues, maybe you would have lost to Anthony Joshua in similar fashion to how you lost to Fury, or maybe you would have won. But what's consistent? The money you would have made. You would have made a lot of fucking
And he would have
money.
had a rematch.
Yeah, and made more money.
So the whole thing, I mean, you know, he got less money to get completely humiliated. I mean, that beating, because if you watch the Tyson Fury fight back, Tyson punches, I don't think are that heavy, and they're technically poor.
Yeah.
But the game plan was great. Like, Tyson has a great ring IQ. But his actual execution isn't that great.
I'm going to say that if you look at the pressure that he put on Wilder, it had more to do with crowding him in the pocket than landing flush shots, because the punches were really short. They were a good amount of them were glancing blows. They weren't necessarily landing.
It wasn't a lot of talk on them either.
Yeah, it was just the fact that
rotation's not there.
You got this 274-pound man bearing down on you. He's not even giving you room to get your punches out, and that was the pressure that beat Wilder. That Fury stayed in front of him in a safe zone because, and we've all said it many times. You've said it, I've said it, everybody said it. Wilder needs to get full extension on the punch to generate power. If he can't do that, there's not going to be no power in the shots. He needs to get his whole arm out there.
This is why the biggest thing, and I gave Tyson credit for this on a different platform when he signed to Sugar, because you're never going to beat Wilder trying to beat him on the outside, because that's where he wants you. Exactly. And Tyson recognized that, and he made the change, and he implemented the game plan.
And it was perfect. It's like there's a line in Lord of the Rings, right? And I believe it was Merry and Pippin that said it. And this is literally the blueprint to beating Wilder. The closer you are to danger, the further you are from harm. The closer you are to Wilder, the less of a chance that he connects with that right hand. If you stay on the outside of him when he can get full extension on the punch, all right, you're in trouble. But if you can stay close to him, stay in his chest and stay with him, he doesn't get to throw that punch.
Yeah. I mean, but it's just the point is, whatever the outcome against AJ was, if he had got rid of this idea that he needed to be treated like the A side, he'd have been a richer man.
Yeah,
win, lose or draw, whatever would have happened.
And when
it comes down to all of these things that we're talking about, none of them are being the Floyd that took on Oscar.
No,
they all think they've already had that fight. And you show me a single one of these fighters have actually been the B side to become the A side.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Like, look. This is before he was a unified champion. Keith Thurman. They talked to him about Errol Spence, and he's going off about how Spence needs to fight Diego Chavez and Julio Diaz. I'm like, bro, you like, huh? You're not in a position to where you need to start talking like that yet. You're talking like you've arrived already.
Well, what Keith's numbers? Where are Keith's numbers?
I mean,
what kind of numbers has Keith ever done? What's his best?
Well, that's the thing. Keith in that time, he was associated with some very big ratings. The thing is, that's free TV. That's not pay-per-view.
What are big ratings for free TV? Because
I believe that in his fight with Robert Guerrero, I think it was. I remember that did big numbers, big.
Yeah, well, no, can you quantify it?
Let me look that shit up. But I remember
we had Eubank Ben on free TV in a country of 60 million people. It's probably less than about 55, and they did 17.5 million.
Jesus Christ.
Free TV.
All right, let's quantify that.
TV.
He didn't do that. He damn.
And we're about the population of Texas or something.
Yeah, small.
No, we're a tiny market.
I'm like, look. The basic thing is, and it goes back to what we're always saying. These guys get one iota of success, and they fucking think they've arrived already. Like if you ask them about Tank, Tank is he's a superstar. Really?
But I don't understand when you've had this genuine superstar, and whatever anybody wants to say about Floyd, he was a genuine superstar, right? One of my brother-in-laws, I think was still living in Nigeria when Floyd was at his peak, and he loves Floyd. Like Floyd had reach.
Yeah.
People knew who he was.
Look, Floyd. You know, Floyd had reach because somebody was willing to pay this man several millions of dollars to fight in a farce fight over there in Japan against Tenshin Nasukawa. You know what I mean? Like the dude reached a lot of. He was a superstar. Say what you want about his career. He was a superstar. These guys.
Anyone who wants to bitch about Floyd's career are only looking at the tail end of it.
Yeah.
Like Floyd fought pretty much everybody when he was at his prime. All right, once he got to like 35, he did take some softer touches. But he was 35 plus.
We got to use the rule of thumb for Anthony Joshua that we use for Floyd. You can't say nothing nice about Floyd. You can't do that. You can't do that. What the hell are you doing?
But this is what I don't get, the dichotomy of it all, because the PBC guys love Floyd and hate AJ.
Well, that's the thing, John. The PBC guys don't actually love Floyd anymore because of the Wilder stuff. That like Senior.
Have they revoked his card like they did?
Yes, that Floyd is hating. He hating Senior. He's hating.
Hating what? Hating this
wait a minute. You're telling me that Floyd Mayweather Senior, all right, experienced Senior, trained Oscar De La Hoya, Floyd Mayweather Senior. You're gonna tell me he don't know shit about boxing when he says that Wilder sucks, that he can't fight? You know something that Floyd Senior don't know. You know that's what happened. And Floyd Senior said that shit. They revoked his shit. They revoked Floyd's shit when when that story was published that Floyd was at the first Fury fight. And Floyd walked away because he was disgusted with the scoring. You know, Floyd had Fury win the fight. Motherfuckers,
no.
They've been mad at Floyd since that. Like he's a hater. He's a hater. Like he's not a hater, man. Right? If the fucking guy, it wasn't a fucking draw. We know that. Yeah, he got 2 knockdowns. You see, it's 12-round fight.
If Floyd's had contentious decisions, what happened?
I mean, shit.
Shit.
I forgive a lot of shit. Just it's like the Canelo stuff. Like, look, and I always say this, and people don't like it, but it's the truth. All right. If you have a close round with Canelo, if you see that a fighter is having a fight with Canelo and it was a close round, save yourself the trouble, save yourself the heartache, and give the fucking round to Canelo, because that's what the fuck they're gonna do.
Yeah, right? But Floyd did actually rematch people when it was close. That's and then he went on and he won.
Yeah. They act like the second Maidana fight didn't happen, or the second Castillo fight didn't. That's how they act. Like he didn't give those guys rematches. Yes, the fights were close, and he gave those guys rematches.
Exactly, and they weren't close the second time.
No, they weren't. It was a lot more comprehensive and a lot more decisive in the second Castillo fight, in the second Maidana fight. So they living in a bubble where he didn't give those guys. And like I said, it's Floyd. And you can't say nothing nice. You can't. AJ, you can't say nothing nice, all right? And when it comes to Fury, you have to say all nice things, all good things.
It's like this chin talk. It's like Nevin Pikage, Steve Cunningham. But AJ's the one with the weak chin.
And I don't. This is what I'm saying. I'm like, look, I'm not talking down Fury by bringing up facts, and that is a sickness in this era that I cannot tell the truth without being a hater, but it's the truth. Nevin Pikage dropped him.
But Julius, the whole point, and I don't know how many times I'm going to say this, there's no point talking about chins in the heavyweight division.
It isn't.
The reason it's the glamour division is because you're always one punch away, no matter who you are.
That's the lesson that I took from the Lennox era, right? The Lennox Lewis era. and the Klitschko era, because if you were here in America on the ground, what the people were saying, oh, Lennox can't take a punch. In hindsight, that's fucking stupid. All right. Then they were saying that about Vladimir at the Corey Saunders fight. Vladimir goes on to reign the division, reign as champion in this weight class.
Well, how come
like 9
we
years?
never hear this about Mike Tyson after Buster Douglas?
I guess it's because with Mike, if you remember the aesthetic of the fight,
that's what it is.
If you remember the aesthetic of the fight, I guess the reason that people don't say that about Mike is because you had to beat the shit out of Mike. Like, you remember the Lennox Lewis fight, right?
Yeah, I know. But, I mean, I also knew they hadn't acclimatized to the altitude. And I knew that going into the fight. I was telling everybody in the UK to bet their money on Ruckman. And you were getting good odds for it at the time. Because he hadn't acclimatized to altitude. You can't do that. And if you're exhausted in a boxing match, Julius, and you get hit, what's going to happen?
No, of course. Of course. But the thing is, people.
So I knew that, though, so I can't.
There were things about boxing. There were things about boxing.
And when Mike got knocked out, he was exhausted. So to me, it's pretty much the same thing.
There are things about boxing now that the average fight fan is perhaps more privy to. High altitude training, the benefits, the detract, and what's good and bad about it. You know that. I actually read that you shouldn't do that for a prolonged period of time. That
if you go and fight at altitude, Julius, you have to acclimatize to that altitude. Now, wasn't it in Johannesburg? It's like really high there. It's like fighting in Mexico City. You've got to go and acclimatize. And that's what I'm talking about. He was busy filming Ocean's 12. And he arrived there with like 4 weeks to prepare, and it's not long enough to acclimatize to the altitude. And we knew that in the UK. I'll
give it to Lennox that he fought to get the rematch. He had to take Rahman to court. Remember that?
I remember. I followed it at the time, Juice. I'm a little bit older than you, and I was actually quite a big Lennox fan. So. He had
to take Rahman to court. He got to fight him within 12 months. Within 12 months, it didn't take a year for the rematch to take place.
I think it's actually only 6 months. It's not actually that long. It's a similar amount of time to AJ Ruiz. I think it's fairly similar.
Yeah, it didn't take long, and he got his revenge. But I just remember that people's understanding is, now that I'm older, now I see why that was fucking stupid to say that. Like, nah, Lennox isn't chinny, bro. It's the heavyweight division.
If you listen to the American commentary of it as well, because I've watched it back quite often sometimes, that fight, they're all just waiting for Ruckman to land the big bomb in the second fight.
and didn't happen.
It's pretty sweet if you're a Lennox fan.
So now that I'm older and I realize that this is the character and this is the soul of the heavyweight division, that in this division, unlike any other division, if one of these guys lands clean, bro, it don't matter what the fuck was happening before that. The fight could be over.
And it doesn't matter, like, how many people actually have a chin that can sustain this type of beating? I can think of one boxer, and he's still fighting. And he's the other man to have beaten Lennox. Other than that, Ali has hit the canvas. Ali's chin was amazing.
Yeah.
He still hit the canvas. He knocked Ali out.
Sonny Banks, Sir Henry Cooper, motherfucking Joe Frazier. Like, bro, if the GOAT hit the deck, pretty much everybody might end up hitting the deck.
Yeah, exactly. And like, to me, the only reason Ali had the second half of his career because his chin was amazing, because his reflexes had gone, his speed had gone, his conditioning had gone, but the dog and the chin was all there, and he found a way.
If you look at the shot that Ernie Shavers hit Larry Holmes with, bruh, a lot of other motherfuckers would that would have been it, bro. That's it.
Well, to be honest, Larry's like my third all-time greatest heavyweight anyway.
No, but that's what I mean. That when you see that, like
it was close. It was close.
when you see that, like, yo, it's not common for a heavyweight in any era to be able to absorb a clean shot. Like, no, it's not common. So when we talk about chins in the heavyweight division, we have to be mindful that it's not a question of having one or not having one, because these are heavyweights.
Well, the way I look at it is they've all got chins, or they wouldn't make it to the top 30.
Yeah. Yeah,
They'd have been knocked out a long time ago on the way up.
Like look at go back to the Mike Tyson Lou Savarese fight. Now Mike beat the shit out of Lou. He did. But Lou didn't get slept, you understand? So you gotta say to like, yo, Lou, he can take a punch. He lost the fight, but he can take a punch. It's the heavyweight division, man. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I also think people overcook Mike's power. And they undercook Mike's speed.
That's what I would say, that so much focus goes into Mike's power, but it was his athleticism that made him formidable, that he's going to close the gap on you. He's very hard to keep
the fastest foot speed for me in the history of the heavyweight division.
Yeah. And that's what makes him
lead. The hand speed's not very, like, who's got better hand speed?
But I can't think of somebody.
And the precision, he's going to hit you in the right place. And if you see one of them coming, the next one's coming so fast you can't see that coming as well.
Like this guy is getting under and around your jab the whole time. He's getting closer to you, and this is happening in seconds. That is a terrifying proposition. That you're jabbing and you're moving and you're trying to keep him out, but you can't.
And he's as good with either hand as well. He's like, all right, he's not ambidextrous in the way that he's a southpaw, left-paw. He can switch.
But he's got power in both hands.
But like but he doesn't have a better punch either, does he? He's equally proficient left hooks, uppercuts, right? It doesn't matter which one's hitting you; they're all executed perfectly.
So I love the fucking guy. Well, look, I gotta wrap this one up.
Thanks,
I'm gonna go live on Saturday for the shellacking of Kubrat Pulev. I am gonna go live for that. And I'm looking forward to seeing that beating, man, because I think that's going to be a really good beating.
But I want it to be in style. To be honest, I want Fury and Usyk to watch it and not look at the power and be afraid of the improvement in skill. That's what I want to happen.
I think that's what we're going to see. Anyway, look.
I hope so.
Got to get out of here. Pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, Julius. Bye.